Redline Logbook here for D. Gray Man's Order in Chaos arc. This arc starts off where we left off with Alan trying to win back everything that Crawley was scammed out of. And it's going great. Like, Alan didn't just get back Crawley stuff, he stripped those other guys of everything they had. The three guys get suspicious because Alan's winning every single hand and they are cheating. They ask the guy dealing out the cards if he's giving Alan crap cards, and he says yes, which means they should be winning because they're cheating, but it just isn't working out for them. So they realize Alan's cheating, but they don't know how he's doing it. Robbie is confused and asking Alan how he's doing, and Alan happily just says he's cheating. Apparently, Alan sees this as part of his training. This is just what he had to do to survive working under Master Cross, because he had to constantly pay off his master's debt while trying to scrounge up some money to feed himself. So cheating and scamming just seems completely normal to Alan. Robbie is surprised, is the best way to put it. Didn't expect Alan to have this side of him. When it's all said and done, Alan stripped them of everything but their underwear. But as they're getting off the train, Alan gives back all their stuff, saying they would freeze in this kind of weather. The scammers' response is that they have too much pride to just take back their stuff, as they're in the process of taking back all their stuff. I thank Alan for giving back their stuff, because apparently they're about to start work in a mine, and they can't really do that if they're, naked. Apparently they're just wandering orphans. The kid that's with them is about to give Alan something in exchange for all the stuff that he just gave back. Kind of a way of saying thanks. The guy with the glasses stops the kid from handing over what he was trying to give Alan. He says, "No, that's your treasure. I'll give him something else," and he throws Alan a pack of cards. So the kid's name is Easy, and the treasure that he was about to give Alan as thanks was an exorcist button. One of those silver buttons that they have on all their cloaks. And apparently the man with glasses is the one who gave it to him. The man with glasses' name is Tiki, and then a public phone starts to ring, and Tiki walks over it, answers it, and says he has one of his side jobs to do. Now, this should be suspicious to his friends, because that would imply that someone has the ability to get in contact with a nomadic homeless person using public phones. But that's not suspicious to these guys. They just go, "Oh, another one of your secret side jobs? All right, see you later. We'll get back to the mines then." And the only response the kid has is that Tiki should bring him back some more silver coins, or buttons. And when the kid is swinging around his button, it's revealed on the back it belonged to General Yagner. Now we know that Rogue was there to kill Yagner because he was crucified with her little candlesticks, but this proves that Tiki was also there, and he was also part of killing the general. Then Tiki separates from his friends, he starts walking away. That's when the Millennium Earl appears. He comments on Tiki hanging out with his human friends. He seems to ignore this altogether and asks if he can have dinner before he goes off to work. And then Earl says, "That's fine, but you need to dress more properly." Tiki then transforms into his Noah form, where he ends up with the gray skin, the scars on the head. His clothes completely change into a proper suit and a top hat. And of course, he gets rid of the glasses. And basically, he just looks like a proper nobleman at that point. That's when we have a jump over to Conda's group, who are still on the hunt for General Theodore. All three of them are split apart in the city, and they're having a hard time communicating with each other with their golems because they're just too far apart from one another. It's not explained how they got separated, but most likely they just keep getting attacked by Akuma over and over again. But none of them seem concerned, even though they're having a hard time communicating with each other and they're all fighting alone. They all seem perfectly content that they can handle the situation that they're in. So while communicating with each other, they decide they're going to meet up in one area. Both Kanda and Keshi is the guy with the makeup that looks like tears, are both going to go toward Mari's direction. Mari is the one with the headphones. And they'll all meet up there in the morning. And the reason why they're going to meet up in the morning is because all three groups are immediately attacked by level 2 and level 1 Akumas. And of course, they just start ripping into the Akumas like they're tissue paper. We get to see Deshi's ability, which is Charity Bell, which is his innocence is inside of a bell that's the shape of a ball, and he kicks it around, and he hits Akuma with it. Now, the impact doesn't actually damage the Akuma, but if an Akuma gets hit by the bell, a sonic wave made of sound destroys the internal organs of the Akuma, killing it. So it's a move you can't really block because it can go inside of anything. The only thing you can do is just dodge it and pray that the sonic waves don't hit you. We go back to Tricky, who enters the Earl's home, where he's then immediately forced to help Rogue with her homework. Apparently she's been putting it off and it's due tomorrow. That's not a joke. That's literally what happens. It's one of the reasons why the Earl forced him to return. That, and also he has a job for him. Gives him a list of names for Tiki to kill. Unfortunately, we don't actually get to see the list of names. All we know is it was more names that he was expecting. He even comments on just how many people the Earl wants him to kill. This, of course, gets Tricky excited because this means that the Earl's plan for destroying the world is beginning to ramp up. Now that Tricky has his hit list, he decides just to leave immediately. That's when the Earl, Rora, and Rode all comment on Tricky's personality. where the Earl thinks it's going to be hard for Tricky to do this, kill all these people. Aurora's like, well, he does like humans. He spends a lot of time with them, so that would make sense. But it's clear Rhoda has a better understanding of Tricky than the other two, because she says, no, it's not going to be hard. It's going to be disturbing. And we don't have to wait long what she means by this, because while Tricky is just walking down the road, immediately the wall next to him just explodes, and Dasha then comes out of it. We don't actually get to see the fight between Dasha and Tricky. All we hear is Wakanda and Mishi hear, which is the sound of Tricky saying, killing is so much fun. And when the fight is over, Tricky is trying to hold himself together because he enjoyed killing Dashi so much. And he straight up says to himself, I need to be careful because what's the most fun is having both the light side and the dark side of me. So he enjoys spending time with humans, but at the same time he enjoys killing them. And so this is why Rogue said Tricky is disturbing, because his personality wants to desire all sides of human life, both the good, like friendship, and the evil, like torture and murder. He wants to satiate all of it. In the morning, they find Dashi's body, and Tricky, just as sadistic as he was with the general, crucifies him, leaves Dashi's body splayed out for the world to see. Shortly after this, Kanda and Mishi are able to find General Theodore. He's so happy to see his former students, but as soon as they tell him what happened, he of course starts to cry for Dashi. They ask him to go back to the Black Order with them, but at first he ignores them because he wants to create a drawing. He decides to draw Dashi's hometown, which was this port town in Turkey. He then lights it, burns it, and sends it up to Dashi. And he tells Misha and Kanda that he's not going back to the Black Order. He has a mission to find other exorcists. And as long as God hasn't abandoned them, then he will send more disciples. Kanda's irritated, but he figured this was going to be Theodore's decision. Mashi too, so they both basically accepted it. They're going to just travel with the general. That's when we jump over to the Black Order, and we finally see why this arc is called Order in Crisis. Because River starts reading off a bunch of names of dead exorcists. It wasn't just Desha who died in a matter of days. 6 exorcists and 148 finders were all slaughtered. Every single one of them were brought to the Black Order. There are people just crying over their coffins. You can see that many of the finders are beaten up themselves, which means after surviving this incident, they immediately brought back their comrades' bodies to the Black Order to be buried. This really is one of the most haunting images of D. Gray Man, because the lighting is so perfect for the scene, and it's just clear the absolute devastation that the Black Order just experienced. Several men in the background are now beginning to get scared, saying that if the exorcists get killed, what hope do they have? Is the Earl going to kill everyone? Is humanity doomed? And that's when the science team gets pissed and tells them to shut up. It's unacceptable for them to act that way in front of their comrades who gave up their lives for the cause. Kanda then takes off his hat and gives a proper thanks to the fallen. That's when River gives the autopsy report to Kanda, and that is the simple fact that many of them were killed in the same way as General Yagner. Physically, they look like they're unharmed, but when you actually open them up, you'll see that many of their organs were removed, which means the same killer, which we know as Tricky, is the one who took out the general, 3 of the 6 exorcists, which means Tricky is really moving. Like, he's just taking out exorcist after exorcist faster than anyone else. Now, Tricky killed 3 exorcists, we already know of 1, but the other 2 that he killed were part of the same team, and their 3rd member, a man named Suman, has gone missing, which means that they don't just have 6 exorcists, they have 1 missing. That's when one of the finders, who's heavily injured, comes up to Kanda and asks if he could have his commander's body shipped to his family. He says that he's only alive because the commander gave his life for theirs, and that the commander actually has a son who's around his age, and he should be allowed to take custody of the body. Kanda completely shoots this down, saying the church's rules are that every single one of them will be cremated and then buried in the order. The finder says, this is cruel. How could you do this? And Kanda's response is very straightforward. Can you trust that this man's son won't turn his father into an Akuma? For the sake of the world, all of our fallen comrades must be erased, which makes perfect sense why they have this policy. Because once again, grief leads to summoning the Earl, which then leads to Akumas, which just leads to more death. So yeah, having this policy makes sense, but to go against all the instincts of a human being, to honor the dead, to remember a hero who gave their life, none of that can be done. All of it has to be erased. Everything this person fought for, everything that they worked so hard to do, that must be erased. It really is the ultimate sacrifice if you work for the Order, because it isn't just that you give your life, you also give up being remembered, which is even worse than death in the end. And it's clear giving this order really hurts Kanda, because he's then in his office, leaning over his desk saying, Don't worry about the pain, only think of victory. And he's really trying to hold himself together. And this arc ends off with us returning to Alan's group. We didn't just skip the part where Alan, Robbie, and Crawley meet up with Lena Lee and Bookman. We skip half of their journey through Europe and Asia and are already in China. They're currently on a riverboat, slowly sailing down what I assume is the Yellow River, and Alan senses some eyes on them and thinks it's a panda, and he must have been doing this multiple times, because Lena Lee's response is, "You only think it's a panda every time because we're in China, don't you?" Which tells me two things. One, the only thing Alan knows about China is pandas, and two, Alan really wants to see a panda. But yes, that is how the arc ends off. Alright, if you enjoyed this video, subscribe, give a thumbs up so you can enjoy more D. Gray Man and other things. Thank you, and have a great day.